He's Mike Mayock, the NFL Network, one of our favorites at breaking down who's going to be good and questions, red flags. The least important drill at the combine is what, Mike?
You just like this different kind of stuff, don't you, Dan?
It's just who I am. I don't try. It's just who I am, Mike. I make no apologies.
No, I like it. You're not a low-hanging fruit guy. That's good. I thought for sure it was going to be a Geno Smith question or a Manti Te'o question, so that's good. The least important drill at the combine, I would probably say a couple of the football positional drills that I'll tell you one that's interesting, okay? From an NFL perspective, have you ever, the gauntlet where the wide receivers run down across the field and like 6 different quarterbacks fire balls at them from left and right? The coaches hate that drill because you're supposed to catch it and quickly throw the ball away, which goes against the grain of every coach I've ever met in my life. And the personnel guys kind of like that drill because they feel like they can see hand-eye coordination, quickness of eye, discipline, adjusting, all this kind of these buzzwords, the player personnel guys. And meanwhile, you hear the coaches under their breath, Jesus Christ, rah, rah, rah. It's pretty funny. That's the one drill that polarizes two sides in opposite directions.
I mentioned that I had a problem with the 40-yard dash, that we obsess about it, where I would want to know how quick you are with 5 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards. Because in the course of a game, how many times are you running 40-yard dashes? If you're a lineman, a linebacker, a running back, how quickly can you get to 3 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards, 10 yards? Is that
go
ahead.
Which is why, Dan, and you should be a scout apparently, which is why, without you knowing it, every player at the combine is timed while they're running the 40. Concurrently, they're timed at 10 and 20. Okay, so typically the 10-yard number is what people are concerned with offensive linemen, for instance, and 10 to 20 for the linebackers and some of those people. So you're right; it just doesn't get the publicity of the 40. Now, what I would argue on the 40, and I have conflicting in my mind. I have conflicts here because basically we're talking about track speed. You get in a 3-point stance and you fire out. Think about a defensive back, and people obsess about defensive backs' 40-yard dash times, and I will all weekend, okay? I'm going to tire myself out talking about these 40s. And I am really interested in 5 or 6 guys' times because I'm not sure how fast they are. But here's my point. How many times do a defensive back get into a 3-point stance in a year?
Never.
So if you can backpedal and change direction and open up and fly, that's important. But how fast you come out of a 3-point stance in the first 5 to 7 yards doesn't mean a thing. Yet you better train like a track star because the most important part of the 40 is those first 5 to 7 yards. So all these D-backs are training for their 40. It's not going to make them any faster. They might run a faster time, and it might help them make money, but it's not going to make them a faster football player. So I have mixed emotions, but the only good thing about it is it's apples to apples. If you run it Indy, and again, I got 5 or 6 high-level corners and 5 or 6 high-level wideouts, and they're the two positions that the scouts and coaches obsess about on the 40. Does he have, quote, long speed? And that's the number that makes or loses a lot of money here at the Combine.
He's Mike Mayock, NFL Network. Their coverage kicks off on Saturday, February 23rd at 9 a.m. Eastern, coverage of the Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. More interested in Manti Te'o with the interview part of this or the actual physical combine that he takes part in?
I would love to be a fly on the wall on all his 15-minute interviews. And remember, that's what you get, 15 minutes. The horn buzzes and they rotate. So, it's like speed dating. And Te'o is going to have an uncomfortable weekend, and he's going to have an uncomfortable next couple of months. And how he reacts to all the questions and the comments and the criticisms, I think, are going to go a long way towards determining where he goes. Because, let's face it, before all this stuff happened, he was supposed to be off the charts on the intangible side. And now all that's kind of been erased. And on top of that, you got the Alabama game, which was not a good one. So he's going to have an uncomfortable period of time. I think he'll be fine in the drills, but I wish I could be a fly on the wall because a lot of teams are going to go after him a little bit.
The Matt Barkley not throwing, is it a red flag? He will go to the Combine, but sometimes you can. Cam Newton, I didn't think threw the ball particularly well, but it didn't hurt him. Where you had Ryan Mallett who threw the ball well, and it didn't particularly help him. So I'm trying to figure out what is going on. Is Barkley hiding the severity of the injury, the shoulder, or he just wants to make sure during his pro day he's healthy? I'm trying to figure this out. As somebody who's been there, scouted this, what would you think when you realize Barkley's not going to throw?
Well, the kid came out and basically said he was going to throw a week or 10 days ago and then recanted it this week and under the auspices of medical. And, he's being represented by Tom Condon and his guys, and they typically, and I love Tom. He's a BC guy like I am, but Tom typically doesn't let his quarterbacks throw at the combine. So I don't know what's going on internally there. He's putting all his eggs in one particular basket, and that's March 27th at his pro day. The reality, Dan, and you hit on it, is Cam Newton threw poorly at the combine a couple of years ago. Nobody cared. They just wanted to see the kid move. They want to see the ball come out of his hands. All the NFL people realize that you're throwing to receivers that you don't know. And if they break it off at 10 instead of 12, or the NFL guys are smart enough to understand that they don't care if the ball hits the ground in those drills. They just want to see if you have the guts, number one, to come out and throw the football in front of everybody. And number two, how does it come out of your hand? Let's just take a look. And you're only throwing about 20 balls. So I don't really understand. Cam Newton threw the ball poorly, and he was still the first pick in the draft. He threw it pretty good at his pro day. He gave him 2 shots to throw the football. So I understand why the agents tell the players not to throw, but I don't really agree with it.
Over, under 2 quarterbacks taken in the first round?
I want to say 2, but history over the last couple of years tells me that we're going to get a late riser here somewhere. That over the next, whether it's Mike Glennon, whether it's Tyler Wilson, I don't know who it's going to be, but history tells me there's a need and somebody's going to reach a little bit or come back up late in the first round and grab a third one.
Why is it I like E.J. Manuel a little bit more, given what he may offer you? And he was a guy who completed, 67, 68% of his passes, does have athleticism there, seems to be the guy in this copycat league that you might want to build around if you were going to bring in a quarterback that we've seen follow suit with some of these guys successful this year.
I don't think he's necessarily a Kaepernick, Russell Wilson run guy. And my whole thing, again, is if you step back, it's not just about being able to run a decent 40 or being an athlete.
Yep.
I mean, if you can't throw in the pocket like Kaepernick can or Russell Wilson can, I don't want to talk about you as that high-level guy. Now, Manuel is kind of intriguing, and I liked him at Senior Bowl week. He's a big, strong, physical guy. His size is more like a Cam Newton. He's got some real size to him. He's got inconsistent technique, and he's highly inconsistent in his decision-making. And that's what makes people nervous. Now, at the Senior Bowl, where you only play a single high safety and you kind of know where everybody is by the rules of the game, he has a chance to look good, and he did. I like him also, and I think he's going to go a little bit higher than people. People were talking 4th and 5th rounds. I think he's probably a 3rd-round guy, and I think it's going to take him a year because he's got some. I think his footwork is not great. He's got to clean some stuff up. But Dan, I'm with you a little bit. I think there's some physical ability there, and he's a big, strong guy who can run a little.
Over, under 2 running backs first round?
Only one, Eddie
Lacy. We were talking about Manziel, and Peter King was saying, I have questions about his arm strength. That he's not a Russell Wilson type who scrambled to keep a play, alive. And I know you haven't broken down Manziel because you deal with the guys who are draft eligible, but I'm looking at his ability to make you pay running and scrambling. And I think his arm, what happens sometimes is you don't realize what somebody else does well. You see that Kaepernick can run, but you don't realize he can also throw the football. I think sometimes your best attribute we focus on, and that means you don't do something well. I don't know if Manziel has an NFL style arm, but from what you've seen, we know he can run, keep a play alive, and make you pay. Can he throw the football in a way that would make NFL scouts go, that guy can play and start?
I would say a couple things. And again, I haven't studied the kid, but I've watched a bunch of tape on that left tackle, who's going to be a top 10 pick, Luke Jokel. And Luke Jokel, in the 4 games I watched, lost guys to his inside at least 8 times, which is quick pressure on the quarterback. And that freaking Johnny touchdown cleaned it up every time. plays that could have been sacks or heavy pressures, and Johnny Touchdown steps up or around or starts doing that Fran Tarkenton thing. And, the kid's special. He's got a feel for the game. And, that's rare. That's Doug Flutie. That's Russell Wilson. That's guys that are just natural winners. And this is what I said about Russell Wilson a year ago before the draft. I said, look, I don't know if he's going to be a starter in this league or not, but I do know if I was playing 3-on-3 pickup basketball and winners keep the court, I want him on my team. And that's kind of the way I feel about Johnny Football. I want that freaking kid on my team because I know he's a winner, and we're going to hold the court all day long.
Final 30 seconds, Wonderlic test. Now we've added to it. How important is this? What are we trying to get out of this?
All it is a little bit like the 40, Dan. It's a cross-check, and I always say fast guys run fast, slow guys run slow. It's only a story when the opposite happens. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with the Wonderlic. It's kind of like a cross-check. If a guy has a bad score, but he's got a good football IQ, who cares? Let's go back and check them out. And I think what they're trying to do is make this test a little bit more user-friendly and get a little bit more reliable results and see if a kid can learn. There's a thing they call a kid that's not football smart. They call him a rep guy. It takes them too many reps to learn what you're trying to teach them. And I think that's what they're looking for, just kind of like a red flag saying, is this a rep guy or not?
Have fun there. Always great to talk to you, Mike, and stay away from the low-hanging fruit, all right?
Thanks, Dan.
All right. At my age, I have low-hanging fruit. Thank you, Mike.